When summer hits, nearly 300 million people across America do the exact same thing. They blast their air conditioning and watch their utility bills absolutely skyrocket. But there is a massive secret the home cooling industry is actively keeping from you. Your AC unit does not actually generate cold air. It simply transfers heat from the inside of your house to the outside, and it blows through 90% of its electricity consumption just to do that. Today, I'm going to reveal 3 incredibly cheap physics hacks that relocate heat way more efficiently than your overpriced $3,000 HVAC system. One of these methods costs just $7 and successfully cooled an entire region by roughly 3 degrees. Another strategy relies on a simple underground tube to instantly transform blazing 100-degree weather into a refreshing 60-degree breeze. And scientists have understood exactly how every single one of these techniques works for hundreds of years. The first method is the classic wet towel trick. You have likely been told to just drape a damp sheet in front of a box fan. It sounds like something you do when you are totally broke, but the science powering this trick is actually the most potent cooling force on the planet. Physicists refer to it as the latent heat of vaporization. Whenever liquid water shifts into a gaseous state, it does not just vanish into thin air. It aggressively yanks thermal energy out of the environment. For every single gram of moisture that evaporates, it snatches 540 calories of heat from its surroundings. That is a massive figure. If you let a single liter of water evaporate, it sucks up the exact same amount of energy as a 600-watt window AC unit running for over an hour, completely free of charge. The U.S. Department of Energy actually put this to the test. Out in Phoenix during a blistering 108-degree day, a simple evaporative cooler blasted out a 72-degree breeze. That is a massive 36-degree plunge in temperature. Your premium central air struggles to pull off those same numbers, yet the DIY setup that does it costs maybe $50 in parts. Here's why this is so fascinating. This exact law of physics explains why you shiver when you climb out of a pool on a warm, dry afternoon. The droplets on your body are turning to vapor. As they do, they are robbing your body heat at that incredible rate, dropping your skin's temperature by 10 degrees in a matter of moments. Structural engineers refer to this as adiabatic cooling, and it is the exact reason why ancient desert empires managed to thrive long before the power grid existed. Ancient Egyptians draped soaked reed tapestries across their entrances. Roman architects designed villas with water flowing down the interior walls. Persian engineers constructed massive wind towers that channeled breezes over subterranean streams. It is the identical physics equation yielding the identical outcome. Freezing cold air generated by nothing but water. All right, let's do a quick quiz. We know that 1 liter of vaporizing water equals a 600-watt AC running for an hour. So, how many liters would you need to equal a 1,500-watt central AC running for a full 8-hour shift? Is it A, 10 liters, B, 20 liters, C, 30 liters, or D, 40 liters? You have 10 seconds to drop your guess below. If you guessed option B, great job. 20 liters of water, which is roughly 5 gallons, will absorb the exact same amount of thermal energy as your central air conditioner chugging away from morning to evening. You are talking about maybe $1 in tap water, matching the performance of a gigantic appliance that costs thousands upfront and hundreds a month to operate. But there is a catch, and it is exactly where most survival channels mislead you. Evaporative cooling is only a superpower when your humidity is exceptionally low, specifically under 30%. That is when you experience those massive 30 to 40 degree plummets. However, the second humidity climbs past 60%. The atmosphere is already choked with moisture. Water vapor simply cannot evaporate fast enough. If you set up a swamp cooler in Miami on a 92-degree day with 80% humidity, you might only get a pathetic 4-degree drop. It is basically useless. Physicists refer to this as the wet bulb limit, and it acts as an absolute physical ceiling on evaporative cooling. You are probably thinking, great, so this is only helpful if I live in a literal desert. Not true. Around 40% of the continental U.S. actually experiences average summer humidity levels below that 30% threshold. That covers massive sections of the West, the mountain states, and the Midwest. For over 100 million people, a $5 bucket, a basic fan, and some damp cloth can completely wreck the performance of that high-end unit hanging on your wall. The laws of science simply do not care about brand names. But what if you are in the other 60%? If you are stuck in a humid climate, water alone will not save you. Thankfully, our second trick ignores humidity entirely. Method number 2 is the $7 paint hack. Honestly, this is the one that should genuinely infuriate you. Right this second, as you listen to this, your roof is acting like your worst enemy. On a bright summer afternoon, solar radiation blasts it with roughly 1,000 watts per square meter. That is literally like having 10 100-watt light bulbs baking every single square meter of your house. A typical dark-colored shingle absorbs 80 to 90% of that energy, funneling it straight inside as raw heat. Your attic can easily reach a roasting 150 degrees when it's only 95 degrees outside. Your AC unit is then forced to wage an uphill battle against all that thermal energy bleeding down through your ceiling. You are essentially paying $300 a month to air condition a box that is actively being microwaved from the top down. And the roofing industry sold you those dark shingles, fully aware of what they would do to your utility bills. Let's look at the science. Every surface has a rating known as albedo. This is simply the percentage of solar energy it bounces back into space. A patch of fresh snow boasts an albedo of 85, meaning it reflects 85% of the sun's rays. Your dark asphalt roof, it sits at roughly Duro 5, absorbing a massive 95%. Now here is the proof. The Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, a federal research facility, measured this with precision. They proved that a clean white roof remains an astonishing 55 degrees cooler than a standard gray roof on the exact same summer day. 55 degrees, that isn't a marketing pitch, that is a thermometer reading. And the most affordable white coating on the planet is simple lime wash, just calcium hydroxide blended with water. $7 of lime from any big box hardware store will coat roughly 200 square feet. Humanity has been painting rooftops white for 3 millennia. Picture every Greek island, every Mediterranean town, every Middle Eastern courtyard. They did not do it because it looked pretty. They did it because the physics of reflecting solar radiation kept their buildings incredibly cool without ever plugging anything in. Time for another quiz. Back in 2008, scientists studying 26,000 hectares of white plastic greenhouses in Almeria, Spain, noticed a staggering phenomenon. What was it? Was it option A, local rainfall spiked by 40%? Option B, the ground temperature of the whole province dropped by 1.6 degrees Celsius? Option C, wind speeds doubled over the area? Or option D, local bird populations tripled? Take 10 seconds and drop your guess below. If you went with option B, you nailed it. Those 26,000 hectares of white surface cooled an entire Spanish province by 1.6 degrees Celsius. Even as the surrounding regions of Spain were baking due to a warming climate, Almeria was physically cooling down. Researchers clocked the radiative forcing at negative 19.8 watts per square meter. In simple terms, that pale plastic was physically repelling nearly 20 watts of solar heat for every single square meter. Your traditional dark shingle? It does the exact reverse. It sucks that solar radiation up, transforming your living space into a literal oven. For the price of a $7 bucket of lime wash, you reverse that entire thermal process, and the numbers get even wilder from here. That same federal lab determined that if we simply painted every flat roof in hot climates white, it would eliminate 24 gigatons of carbon emissions. That is the exact equivalent of deleting 300 million vehicles from the highway for 2 straight decades. A single shift in color. Zero advanced tech required, just raw physics. And it actually gets better. Their studies also verified that boosting your roof's reflective power from 20% to 60% slashes your yearly AC power consumption by over 20%. For a typical one-story house, they documented up to a 15% reduction in total annual cooling expenses. So, that cheap bucket of lime doesn't just lower your home's temperature. It returns its own cost thousands of times over in pure energy savings. Your utility provider is fully aware of this fact. They simply prefer you keep your roof dark, because every cent you trim off your cooling costs is money ripped straight out of their monthly profits. But even the best white paint has a physical boundary. It can only deflect the thermal radiation attacking from the sky. So, how do we handle the scorching hot air already suffocating the space around your house? Well, the dirt right under your shoes has actually been fixing this exact issue for millions of years. Method number 3 is the subterranean battery. Dig just 6 feet under your lawn, and the dirt rests at a remarkably consistent 55 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. It honestly does not matter if it is the peak of July or the dead of winter. The Earth naturally soaks up thermal energy and moves it so incredibly slow that the extreme temperature spikes on the surface simply cannot reach down that far. The ground beneath you is basically an unlimited thermal battery permanently locked at 55 degrees. Smart engineers take advantage of this using a system known as an earth-air heat exchanger. The underlying concept is brilliantly simple. You bury a standard 4 to 6 inch pipe in a trench about 6 to 10 feet underground, running it for roughly 30 to 50 meters. Blistering outside air gets sucked into the intake. As that air moves through the underground tubing, the heat naturally bleeds out through the pipe walls and into the much colder earth. By the time that breeze blows out the opposite end into your home, the temperature has absolutely plummeted. A recent 2024 paper in Sage Journals recorded a massive temperature drop of up to 22 degrees Celsius, which translates to roughly 40 degrees Fahrenheit. You are literally turning a 100-degree afternoon into a 60-degree breeze using nothing but a plastic tube buried in the yard. The mechanics driving this are just basic conduction and convection. The dirt encasing that pipe serves as a massive thermal sink. It actively drinks the heat right out of the moving air and slowly spreads it into the endless surrounding earth. The deeper you dig the trench, the more reliable that cooling effect gets. Hit 3 meters deep, and that soil temperature won't swing more than a couple of degrees for all 12 months of the year. And here is the absolute best part. Unlike the swamp cooler from earlier, this trick ignores humidity entirely. The air could be soaking wet. As long as it is hotter than 55 degrees outside, which is basically every day in summer, this system works flawlessly. Now you are probably thinking that burying massive tubes in your yard sounds pricey, and you aren't wrong. Earth-moving equipment isn't free, but here is the thing. Once that pipe is buried, it functions forever. 0 moving parts, 0 air filters to swap out, 0 chemical coolants to top up. The dirt does not charge a monthly subscription fee. Your central air does. But the ultimate cooling hack is linking these underground tubes with a strategy called night flushing. Every physical object in your house possesses thermal mass. Brick fireplaces, thick concrete flooring, or even just large containers of water sitting against a sunny wall. Throughout a blistering afternoon, these heavy materials soak up ambient heat, behaving exactly like thermal sponges. They actively slow down how fast your home heats up. Then, when the sun sets and the outdoor temperature plunges by 15 or 20 degrees, you crack open the windows. That crisp night air washes through the house, extracts all that trapped heat right out of your walls and floors, and basically resets them for tomorrow. A recent 2024 paper in Applied Energy proved that pairing thermal mass with a solid night flush can slash your peak cooling requirements by a massive 36%. You are turning your literal walls into free cooling units that automatically recharge every single evening. Time for one final quiz. Water holds a specific heat capacity of 4,184 joules per kilogram per Kelvin. Standard concrete sits at just 850. So how much more thermal energy can 1 kilogram of liquid water soak up compared to a kilogram of concrete block? Is it option A, roughly twice as much? Option B, roughly 3 times as much? Option C, roughly 5 times as much? Or option D, roughly 10 times as much? Take 10 seconds and leave your answer down below. If you went with option C, spot on. Liquid water can stockpile about 5 times the heat energy per kilo as solid concrete. This is exactly why simply lining up a row of water jugs against a wall is one of the most brilliant zero-cost thermal mass hacks you can deploy. Just 5 gallons of tap water will absorb more thermal energy than a heavy 50-pound cinder block. Grab some empty milk cartons, fill them from the tap, place them against your warmest wall, and you just constructed a totally free thermal battery. And you can push this to the absolute limit by utilizing the stack effect. Hot air naturally lacks density, meaning it floats upward. If you crank open a window near your ceiling on one side of the house and another window near the floor on the opposite end, the stale, hot air vents out the top while pulling a vacuum of fresh, cool air through the bottom. You are turning your house into a self-ventilating chimney. Structural engineers have tracked this natural flow of convection and found it can drop interior temps by 5 to 6 degrees Celsius, entirely without ceiling fans or grid power. When you stack thermal mass, night flushing, and natural convection, you build an HVAC system that costs $0 a month to run. Your masonry eats the heat during the afternoon, the cold night air purges it, and the stack effect guarantees a constant breeze while you sleep. Absolutely 0 compressors, 0 coolants, 0 utility bills. Just raw physics doing exactly what it was designed to do. You might be thinking this all seems incredibly basic. That is the entire point. It turns out that loud, buzzing box outside your window is fighting a battle that basic thermodynamics won thousands of years ago. A coat of white paint bounces the radiation away before it hits. A bucket of water rips the heat right out of the breeze, and the dirt under your feet soaks up whatever heat remains. That is 3 distinct lines of defense, each one weaponizing a different physical law. Not a single one requires a motor, freon, or a signature on a utility bill. The ancient Romans understood this perfectly. The Persians mastered it. The Greeks built their cities around it. But somehow, we erased all that generational knowledge and surrendered our thermal comfort to appliances that cost thousands to install and hundreds a month to operate. The most effective tech isn't necessarily the most modern. Frequently, it is simply the solution that corporate monopolies buried under massive marketing campaigns so you would forget it was an option. Every single hack we covered today leverages foundational rules of thermodynamics that were moving heat long before the very first AC unit was plugged in back in 1902. Vaporization, reflection, conduction, convection, and thermal mass. 5 basic laws, 5 brilliant ways to manipulate heat without handing a dime to the power company. The entire multi-billion-dollar cooling sector relies on keeping you completely ignorant to this science. And if you want to see the exact breakdown of how a $7 powder can permanently replace your AC unit, click on this video right here. The physics behind it will completely shatter how you view temperature from here on out.